franchise ranking, which will be very fun, but also probably stir up a lot of hate comments, as these types of videos tend to do. If anybody likes, ranking videos, obviously it's a fully subjective list, so if you disagree with anything I put on there, or even agree upon, feel free to comment below and let's talk it out. I'm not one of the people who are like, oh, if you disagree, I don't want to hear. No, like, I want to hear. Like, I want civil conversation. I would love to hear why or why not, why you think I'm right or why you don't think I'm right. And if anyone here's a horror movie or Halloween fan, I assume I'm gonna get a lot of head scratchers when it pertains to some of my listings. Yeah, so this is like I said, my third attempt at starting, so I already started chewing on my gum. I got some Orbit Winter Mint, so whatever the heck that tastes like, it's pretty minty. If anyone out there's got some gum with them, feel free to chew along with me, take a seat. It might be a longer video, I'm not quite sure, I've never done a ranking before. Yeah, and also if you guys like these types of things or anything like that, I personally love ranking videos. Like, I could watch, especially horror movie, I could watch them literally all day. If you guys like this type of thing, I'd be more than happy to do some further lists. I definitely have some franchises I could, off the top of my head, think of, and even a handful of other ones that I could like revisit a couple in the franchise, or even binge watch the whole franchise just to put a list together. So let me know if that's something anyone would be interested in. Okay, cool. So yeah, let's get after it. Okay, so starting off number 1. I think this one should be. I just made the list on my phone also. So if I look at my phone, that's what I'm doing. I think this one's pretty self-apparent to anybody who likes Halloween, or even people who may not know it. My favorite Halloween of all time is Halloween Resurrection. Okay, I'm just kidding. I don't think any humans ever said that with a straight face before. But no, obviously my favorite Halloween of all time is Halloween 1978. The original, the one that started it all. Pretty much the slasher movie that made slashers as prominent as it was throughout the whole 80s. Kind of died down in the 90s. Shout out Scream for kind of bringing that back, but I mean, seriously, there was a whole craze of the spin-off franchises that were made simply based off of the concepts and, avenues that Halloween took, that Deborah Hill and John Carpenter approached while making that movie. Whether it be the simplicity of the costume, jumpsuit, a William Shatner mask, a kitchen knife, some boots, that's it. Even to the point where they bought the William Shatner mask like the day of production and just painted it real quick, design, and threw it on. Like, it's become one of the most synonymous masks, or qualities of probably any movie character ever. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing flashy. There's not much blood. There's not much gore. There's nothing extraordinary on those regards. But for me, it's kind of the lack thereof that kind of always got me. Especially as a kid, Michael Myers and Pennywise were pretty much the two horror figures that kind of freaked the shit out of me. And I watched a fair amount of horror movies as a kid because my family was just, I don't know why, Shout out my family for letting me, but yeah, there's something about, the fact that it wasn't anybody kind of crazy. It was just a group of teenagers that he was solely targeting. Characters you can relate to. You can see yourself in these characters. Seniors in high school. It's a pretty relatable thing for the audience it was targeting back then. And it stood the test of time. You can see the character traits in Annie and Laurie, even Ben Tramer, for the lack thereof, the mystique. And I feel like you can kind of place yourself in the position. And then you get Lindsay Wallace and Tommy Doyle as the children. I mean, man, when a scene that always stuck with me is when Tommy's looking out the window and he's watching Michael bring Annie's dead body into the house after he ganks her in the garage. And he sees it unfolding and he kind of gets nervous but doesn't really react. It's like, man, that's something a kid would probably do, a kid, what would a kid do in that moment? He'd probably just observe, Then it gets to the point where he sees Michael just standing there outside the house after, and then he's like, oh shit, like, that's the boogeyman, isn't it? Runs right into Laurie and tells her, and of course she doesn't believe him. It's the whole unfolding of practicality that it's like, wow, like, this is just like a small town, wherever, Haddonfield kind of seemed like that type of place, environment, with the type of people and the scenario and even the storyline. It just didn't seem outlandish to me. If you think back to 70s horror, The Exorcist, it's classic, but it's not as practical because it requires a bit of fictional to think about it. Texas Chainsaw, like, okay, yeah, it's just humans, it's practical, but it's like, is this guy really just, wearing people's faces and butchering? It's like, okay, yeah, people have, but I think subconsciously, for me at least, I am so sorry about that. I'm gonna edit that out. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Forgive me if there's any interferences. There's just excess noise from upstairs. I guess my family's awake. I didn't even realize it. But yeah, it's the simplicity for me, and the mystique of Michael and all that. He's such a scary presence. It's so well made. Obviously, I'm trying to say things about the movie that I don't normally hear people say every time they rehash their opinion on one of the greatest classic movies of all time, so obviously, I can go on the main bullet points, but I'm trying to kind of pick up things that people might not hear every time they hear a review of Halloween, Yeah, oh man, when Michael Myers gets stabbed by Laurie with the coat hanger and he falls down lifelessly, and Laurie doesn't realize it, and then he sits up, and just in the foreground, in the background, you see him, and it's like, oh my god, for God's sake, please turn around, Laurie. I mean, perfectly. It was encapsulated by Jamie Kennedy's character in Scream when he's watching the movie unfold. He's out loud saying, turn around, Jamie. He's right there. It's like, please, just, yes, we're all saying it too. We're all thinking it. It's like, But, it's great. And obviously, Donald Pleasance is amazing. And Jamie Lee Curtis is great. And then Nick Castle plays Michael Myers pretty well. The stuntman who was just kind of nabbed into the role. Sheriff Brackett's not too bad. Aside from that, the casting's okay. It's pretty relatively small, low budget, stuff like that. So, yeah, long story short, number one is the original Halloween. And for number two, this is where it's going to get a little interesting for people. My number two favorite Halloween movie of all time, at the moment, it does vary sometimes, Halloween H2O. Okay, I said favorite, not best, so I want to preface that very strongly. um, okay, how do I introduce this one? I'm a big fan of 90s post-Scream slasher movies, okay? I like a lot of teen slasher films, Yeah, Halloween H2O, it's pretty good for, obviously, for people who don't, it's not really numbered. The Halloween franchise is really numbered in the way that, a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street is. Halloween's numbered up till 6, and then after 6, they started using different titles and just remakes and things like that, and sequels and direct sequels to the original. It's a mess. The layout of Halloween timelines are the most ridiculous thing ever. But basically, Halloween H2O was made in the late 90s, early 2000s. And basically, it was just a movie about Jamie Lee Curtis directly after Halloween 1. Was it after Halloween 2? It actually might have been. Yes, it was Jamie Lee Curtis after Halloween 2. So, basically, she changed her identity and is now working at a boarding school with her son Josh. And yeah, it's a good flick. It's a really good flick. There's some aspects to it that are pretty weird. I'll get that off the table. It's like, okay, how did Michael travel such a far distance to reach Lori? Because she's in California and it's whatever. But right off the bat, I love the movie because it introduces us to an aspect of what's her name? I just had it in my mind. Nurse Chambers. I think it's Marilyn Chambers. She was a nurse who was made a cameo. Well, not cameo. This is a cameo now, but she made her debut in the original Halloween. And she was a nurse who was talking to Dr. Loomis. And she had an encounter with Michael, but they brought her back. And basically, the movie is starting off with her house has been vandalized. And, she recruits the help of the next door neighbors, and it's just two teenage dudes. It's funny stuff, and it's a little funny stuff, but then Michael is still inside the house. He never really left it. It's like, oh man, right off the bat, you're like, okay, why are they showing us this if nothing's gonna come from it? You're a little like, okay, so you're still on edge. And even as the teen is kind of walking through the house with the hockey stick, checking out her house to make sure the burglar's not still there, there's part of you that's like, nah, no one's there anymore. There's part of you that's like, oh, there has to be something, because they wouldn't show us this if not. So right off the bat, it really gets you engaged. And I'm a sucker for opening scenes. It's probably the most important thing in a horror movie for me. That happens in the first half of any movie. There's a lot of important aspects to horror movies in particular, but music's a big one, and cadence. But opening scenes for me it's a make or break. It's really important. So yeah, that's great. And then basically ends with Michael just going on a spree of killing the teen kids, and then Nurse Chambers. But so yeah, it's Laurie's kind of all strict, and she's all kind of PTSD filled from her encounter with Michael, which is very understandable. But I love that because that's actually what I like. That's actually what I like about the new Halloween movies too. The Halloween 18 and Halloween Kills. It really shows the psyche aspect of what went down and how much it impacted Laurie and still does to this day, which I assume it would be too. I think many of us would experience the similar hysteria and paranoia to an extent, given the circumstances. If we found out our brother was trying to absolutely murder us and murdered all our friends, it was, I think we'd all to an extent experience to have clearly had without really getting into great depth about it, which again, it's so good. You know, they imply it so well and you feel it from the characters so well that it's like, oh yes, it's so good. So that's another thing I like about it. You know, I really feel the characters' emotions and connections that previously existed. Not all of them, especially not the lover of Jamie Lee Curtis in that movie. He is one of the worst people ever. One of my funniest moments in Halloween and the whole franchise is them two when they're making out in the room, in the office or whatever, and she's like trying to have a serious conversation, and he's like, yeah, like my brother, he killed my sister, and my friends tried to kill me, and he's like, well, that's sucky. I'm like, what? Bro, like, aren't you the guidance counselor? Lord have mercy on his soul, man. Yeah, man, it's pretty good. It's very 90s-ish, you know, it's not that traditional weird stuff. But I love it. I don't know, it has one of the best replayability factors for me of any of them. I mean, I could probably put on 10 out of 12 of these anytime and enjoy myself, but yeah, H2O, it's interesting. It's not everybody's favorite. It's got a pretty decent battle. There's a really cool scene where, you know, Michael's on campus. I'm going to try to avoid going into full plot synopsis of each movie, so bear with me, I'm sorry. I just realized I was basically just explaining the plot of this movie. I'm going to limit myself to that and just stick to highlights and bullet points, so this isn't a 3-hour video. Sorry. Yeah, you know, there's a point where Michael's on campus of the school, and the whole school's on a retreat, and there's only a handful of people left at the school. Jamie Lee Curtis, her son, a couple of her son's friends, the security guard played by LL Cool J, actually, which is pretty funny. He's got a pretty funny role. And basically Michael's running. I mean, Michael's not running. Everyone's running, and Michael's, you know, chasing after them. And they get to a locked door, and you know, you're like, oh fuck, man, they're done. Like, they're gone with the wind, man. And then boom, it gets open. It's Jamie Lee Curtis. I think the guy's counselor boyfriend's there too, actually. But anyways, they shut the door right as Michael's about to get in, and it's like just Michael and Jamie. Michael and Laurie. I said Jamie. Michael and Laurie just staring at each other. And it's like, oh my god. You know, like as soon as Laurie put her guard down and, you know, kind of put the past behind her, as soon as she did that, this is what happens. It's like, oh god, because you feel for the character. You see Laurie's face, and Jamie Lee Curtis is so prolific as that character. And I personally always felt that moment so intensely. Absolute masterpiece. So, shout out that movie. Oh, and the ending, of course. I should have said this, but spoilers for every movie on this list, every Halloween movie ever. At the end, you know, when Michael's subdued, and Jamie Lee Curtis actually ends up taking him hostage and kidnapping his kind of lifeless body to finish the deal. It just drives, and then eventually, you know, cuts his head off. I mean, Jesus, the insanity that went through her mind was after they thought Michael was dead, she was the only one who thought he was alive, basically, so she grabs a holstered gun from a cop's waistband, points it at cops, steals the car with Michael in it, drives, realizes Michael's alive, the car crashes, and then she cuts his head off. If it wasn't for Halloween Resurrection, that would have been the greatest ending I could ever imagine for that franchise. But they had to mess it up. Whoever gets it, gets it. Whoever doesn't, you'll find out why later on. But yeah, so number 2, Halloween H2O. Oh god, here we go. This is where the pitchforks are gonna come out. Number 3 on my list of favorite, not best times. Sadistic, creepy, over the top characters at times, and very brutal compared to the original Halloween, compared to any Halloween before. I think up until Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, that was definitely the most brutal. And then I think Halloween Kills absolutely took the cake for that as a lead. But man, that movie was something else. I vividly remember there being like a stripper scene where Michael Myers' mom was doing like a stripping montage. My mom walks in and she's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, I don't know. She's like, "John." I'm like, "But Ma, it's Halloween." That got shut off real quick. But yeah, what I like about the Halloween remake is I'm a big fan of remakes, honestly. Like, they're not all great, obviously, but there's enough remakes that I'm actually a pretty big fan of. Rob Zombie's Halloween is definitely a remake that I'm a fan of. It's nowhere near the original, but especially for a Rob Zombie movie, which I'm not really a big fan of his filmography, even though I respect him as a director and writer. Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, pretty much the only ones I know, and I'm not the biggest fan of either of them. But what he does different than the original Halloween is he focuses on Michael Myers' childhood for at least half the movie. The whole first and second half, the first and second act are basically just Michael Myers as a kid. And that actor is so good. That kid did phenomenal in that role. Phenomenal if you ask me. So you got to see a linear progression of the buildup of the angst and anger and psychopathology of Michael. It made you sympathize for Michael in a sense, not because of the killing, but knowing where the killing was stemming from. Because it's not like the 78 where it was just a little kid who came from a picture perfect home in a sense, and had no indication, which is what that movie did so well too, because it makes you guess in the opening scene like what went wrong, So it kind of switches that he was always a little crazy. This one, it kind of makes you seem like there was always something in him, but his external environment really amplified his internal dialogue of insanity, and it's like, oh man, so good to me, so good. I respect the duality of both perspectives when it comes to adolescent Michael Myers. Another subtle thing they kind of threw in there was Michael's always very fond of his sister Judith, who will later be known as Laurie when she gets adopted by the Strode family, which happens in the original too. So there was a lot of flirtation with the original concepts. It wasn't like he pulled a Ryan Johnson with The Last Jedi and just threw the rule book out the window when it came to honoring franchises. Oh god, I hate that movie. But yeah, I think my praise to the first half of said movie is the downfall of many's negative outlooks toward it as well. So it's interesting how that works. A lot of people tend to not like the over-fixation on the early life of Michael, but I think it's great. Yeah, it's really kind of, it gets into the nitty-gritty, makes you almost uncomfortable. There's animal torture, and there's him beating a child with a stick, almost to death, maybe to death, I'm not quite sure. It shows you the introduction of Loomis, which is really fascinating. It shows you really early on, he comes and meets into the school with the principal or the guidance counselor and talks down with Michael and his mom and all that, so it's really interesting. Absolutely brutal when he kills his sister, his mom's boyfriend, and his sister's boyfriend. Oh man, the baseball bat kill and the boyfriend is it's brutal. And yeah, it's nuts. prison, and he's really, really terrifying. Like the scariest Michael Myers I think I could imagine when I saw that movie. He's got that orange homemade mask that he made, along with the dozens of other masks that were, handmade or paper mached. I can't speak. Inside of his cell, and it's just like, oh my god, you see what he's been doing all this time. He doesn't speak, he barely eats, but he's a mountain of a guy. He's got the long hair, and you can just see the definition of size on him. It's like, oh my goodness. A lot more intimidating than any other Michael iteration previously, by a mile. I mean, this guy's scary. And then, those are my favorite, really, aspects of it. I mean, I think it's a great film through and through. I mean, the character of Laurie's interesting. It's definitely a different approach. I think it's like Scout Hunter or something. I forget her name. She had a lot of weight on her shoulders. I don't think she was nearly as good as Jamie Lee Curtis by a mile, but much respect to her for attempting that role. I think she had a phenomenal final act with Michael. When she falls into the pool and all that, and true terror, you can tell. And she tries negotiating with Michael at one point. It's very interesting. It's nice, and then, at the end, she kind of pulls the trigger and just screams as she does it, because the realization that she just shot her brother in the face point blank with a gun, and the blood's all over her face, and she's holding the gun. It's crazy ending. Yeah, again, I tried. I know I hopped from beginning to end there. I could literally sit here all day and just go through bullet points of each movie, and I just don't. I can't do that. It's too much. So yeah. And now number 4 is no pun intended. No coincidence intended. Halloween 4: Return of Michael Myers. Again, people are probably like, bro, what? Hear me out. This one's pure for nostalgia. Return of Michael Myers. It's not the best movie. It's not the greatest. It's the movie I watched the most. Probably most watched horror movie as a kid, honestly. I'm trying to think, but definitely Halloween, probably as a kid, just the most watched, like, frequently. Obviously, after Halloween 3, after Halloween 2, they decided to make an anthology series, meaning every future movie would be a completely different story, with different characters, different everything. However, after the feedback, Halloween 3 wasn't the best for what the studio executives basically wanted. They went back to the roots, brought back Michael Myers, and that's when we get not Jamie Lee Curtis, but what's that girl's name? I can't think of her name. Whatever. We get Jamie. I think it's Jamie Lloyd, yeah, who is the daughter of Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie. And Laurie, in this timeline, is dead. Yeah, so basically we get introduced to, Jamie's adopted family, which is, it's pretty generic, aside from her adopted sister, who's amazing. Oh goodness, what is her name? What is her name? I must find out. This is how unprepared I am. Rachel. It's Rachel. Why did I put this as my 4th favorite if I didn't even know the character's name? That's my favorite. That's crazy. So yeah, we're introduced to the character Rachel, who's kind of like, in a sense, the role of the final girl is kind of split amongst the two, which is interesting. And I say that because Laurie's character is kind of encapsulated partially between the two, mainly because you kind of see the high school younger person aspect kind of maturing into an adult type of thing when it comes to Rachel. But then you get the blood tie is where Halloween turned into more of a supernatural type of thing, opposed to just like a mental patient with a mask. It kind of introduced that Curse of Thorn or Cult of Thorn type of thing, where it's basically Michael Myers is like possessed by a deity type of thing or a demonic presence. I'm so sorry. And you know, his actions are controlled. He has to kill his bloodline off and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty good. What I like about Halloween 4 the most is just kind of, it reminded me more of the original Halloween than Halloween 2 did, if that makes sense. I'll talk about Halloween 2 soon, obviously. But Halloween 4 was really interesting because it was, you know, we got to see the effect that not directly knowing Michael kind of had on characters. So we kind of saw them again before they met Michael, and then post introduction to him, and just seeing how the tone of each character kind of changes. You know, it's really interesting. Off the top of my head, one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise is when the rednecks in town, they're kind of, they group up and decide they're gonna go kill Michael. So they get on, you know, all the pickup trucks, and, you know, they got Rachel, and they got Jamie, and they got them, and they're driving them to safety and stuff like that. And Michael is like chilling on the underbelly of the truck that they're driving, and he hops up without anybody noticing and just throws them off and kills them one by one, and no one notices the damn thing. And then once they're all dead, the driver notices, and he looks over to Rachel, and when he looks over, it's just like, dude is just grabbing his face. Michael's just grabbing his face and just rips it. It's, oh, the practical effects on that's great. But yeah, it's a funny scene. I just think it's pretty good. What else? I don't even know why I put Halloween 4 this high, to be honest with you, if I didn't have much to say. I mean, it's most of my positional rank for it just solely is based off the nostalgia I have for it, you know, the love in my heart, and just the replayability. Okay, again, I apologize for the cuts. I'm trying my best. I thought if I did this at 11 o'clock at night, it would be better for quiet, but I guess not. Okay, next on my list is Halloween for the third time. This one's the Halloween 2018. Pretty good movie, pretty good flick. It took a lot of different approaches. It definitely accommodated to the modern day more. Biggest one is basically just, you know, the sheer aspect of the podcasters and their whole story arc at the beginning of the movie, which is a pretty different approach to a movie. But then again, Halloween's always been pretty, like, good with keeping up, I guess, in a sense. I mean, Halloween Resurrection, it does, you know, the live stream aspect of things, which was 2000s, which is mind-bogglingly advanced for its time. But so it's not like it kind of came out of nowhere with, you know, the adaptation to technology, but it's pretty interesting. I do not at all like the part where the podcasters are in the courtyard and they hold Michael's mask up, and everyone just starts freaking out. I hate that, because, like, it's like, oh, they feel the evil, and it's like, bro, he's a guy. We've very much clarified that he's just a regular dude. And it's like, this is stupid. I'm not a fan of any of the new characters in the newer movies at all. I like Laurie, and that's it. Yeah, that's my biggest distaste for the new movies. I could care less about any of the characters, to be honest with you. I don't think they have any good character development. I don't think they have any good story, really, aspect. I think the best stories are just it's not a bad movie, but it's just like, I mean, honestly, I had more sympathy and like dread in my heart when I saw the podcasters get killed in the bathroom scene than I did when the father dies. Like, I didn't care, to be honest with you. I think Laurie's approach as a character that the writer put on was pretty cool. It's a big takeaway for me, because, you know, it's kind of like that H2O type of thing, where you just kind of like still got that mental angst from the encounter, except this time it's just a direct sequel to the original Halloween. It's not a sequel to Halloween 1 and 2, it's just the one. So they're not related. Again, it adds that element of, okay, you know, I get it. You survived a brutal attack and killing just massacre by the psychopath, but man, he killed like 4 people, you know? And I'm not saying that's not like bad, but what I'm saying is, comparatively, what he's done in other timelines, that's like nothing for Michael Myers. So it's like the anticipation that she always has for him returning and being prepared. It's like training their child since birth, basically. You know, was in custody of her kid because of how serious she was. Like, really that serious? Okay, I guess it's just, he's just a regular guy, but I guess. I don't know. And she clearly didn't do a good job of relocating if the podcasters were able to find her like that, you know, because they drove to her house and offered her money. That's crazy. So yeah, I mean, what can I say that's good about the movie? Oh my goodness, my favorite shot in the whole entire franchise in this movie, the one shot that Michael has, where he's walking on the sidewalk and then he walks through the garage, grabs a weapon. He walks into a house, murders a woman, but it's off-camera murder. I'm not really a fan of off-camera kills. But he walks in, murders a woman, takes a knife from her, walks out the door, walks on a sidewalk, into an open garage, onto a porch, watches a woman, then goes in the house. The whole time the camera's filming the whole thing, but the camera's not following Michael inside the house. It stays on the porch where he was. And there's this reflective scene where Michael leans down and looks at the reflection of his mirror, and it's French kiss. I did this yesterday, bro. It's chef's kiss. Maybe I just want a French kiss to Mike. I don't know, man. Don't make it weird. But nah, it's mad good. And then, you know, he goes in and he just brutal kills him right from the back, grabs her, and just right through the freaking head. And it's like, oh, that's brutal. Crazy kill. Crazy sequence. My favorite scene, like camera scene in the whole entire franchise by a mile. Honestly, that one aspect is probably keeping it as high as it is for me, but that's that, yeah. Okay, next is, number 6 is Halloween 2. 1981 version, not the Rob Zombie one. So, yeah. Okay, Halloween 2, it's nothing special. I think John Carpenter would tell you himself he didn't even want to make the movie. Basically the whole entire movie takes place in a hospital. So, it kind of limits the suspense and all that. To add insult to injury with the setting being in a stationary location, Laurie's bedridden basically the whole movie. Laurie basically does nothing. All the final girl things you saw Laurie do in the first movie, it's not there, which is understandable because it happens the same night. It's set the same night as Halloween, so obviously, you know, it makes sense on why Laurie's drugged up in the hospital and all that. I get it. I'm not mad at how the character reacts. I'm mad at how they made too crazy about the movie for me. Obviously the reveal of the sibling aspect's a big one. It's pretty cool. It's very well done. But, you know, it's kind of the extent that it goes to. Especially when you perspectivize it now, it's like, yeah, it's obsolete now. So it's like, I think they were kind of going for like an Empire Strikes Back type of reveal. Whereas, you know, sequel of the original and what can we do to go bigger and better, but it didn't really hit for me. Like, it's cool to know, but I could go with or without them being related. I personally think it's cooler if they're not related. But that's just me. For the Rob Zombie one, I think it's better that they're related, but for the original, I could care less. I think it'd be cooler if you just had a personal vendetta that she survived or whatnot. That seems cooler to me. I'm more scared. Yeah, Dr. Loomis is a big downgrade in this movie for me too. His performances in this franchise really vary, especially when you get to Halloween 5. Not a great performance, if you ask me. Seemed to really dial that one in with some Jack Daniels. Yeah, I mean, basically it's just a dark, empty hospital with a bunch of horny doctors and nurses. That's pretty much it. They try to add this weird little relationship, like flirtation thing with some EMT and Lori, and it's like, it's weird. It's very forced in a sense. Like, it's like, dude, she's like, just almost died. She's all drugged up. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Not at the right time. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent movie. I'm not against it. I think it's watchable, but I'm never going out of my way to watch it type of thing, you know. It's like, if it's on, I'll watch it, but that's kind of the extent. Nothing flashy for me. Okay, number 7 is Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers. Believe it or not, I actually don't mind the movie as much as people make it seem out to be like such a bad flip movie, whatever. I think it's pretty funny. We got Paul Rudd in it, you know, it's pretty cool. I think it has a lot of bizarre choices made. I think it's mainly studio and executive meddling by the Weinstein Company, opposed to anything else. Because if you watch the director's cut opposed to the theatrical, there's a big distinction there. So yeah, basically this is the point where the full tide of the insanity of the Thorn cult has taken over. So, you know, we start off the movie with Jamie Lloyd as kind of like I want to say she's like 16, 15. Supposed to be like that years old. I don't know what the actress was, but age range, and she's pregnant, and she's inside of this like dungeon, like chamber looking thing, and there's this whole like weird flashing sequence of again, weird decision to make it the way it was, but it's like a flashy sequence of like strobe lights in a sense, and flashes of imagery enclosed by some very bizarre remixed interpretation of the Halloween theme by Carpenter. That's why I forgot to mention from original Halloween, so obviously it's the greatest horror theme of all time. But yeah, basically it's revealed that this is pretty weird even to this day. It's very questionable. It's revealed that Michael Myers more or less basically got Jamie pregnant, and even though that's her uncle, so it's very, very weird. We're gonna move past that part. Yeah, it's basically a reveal of that, and it's interesting. Basically she has to escape the place that she's in, and that's kind of the opening sequence of her trying to escape, and she gets assistance from a nurse inside of this place. And she escapes with a newborn baby, and, you know, Michael's on her tail, and it ends up in a brutal kill. She gets killed in a brutal fashion after she's able to hide her child and stuff. And yeah, it's an interesting opening, aside from, like, you know, characters in a sense. They're nothing crazy. I have to nitpick this. There's a part where the mom is, or the grandmother of the child, I should say, is of the boy. I'm just saying vague terms for people. Yeah, she's in her yard and she's like, she knows Michael's in the house because Dr. Loomis called. It's very weird that Dr. Loomis is even connected to all this, but I guess it was like a last little introduction reprisal of the role to tie things in, which will make sense in a sec, but yeah, she's running in her yard and there's like laundry hung up everywhere on clothing lines, and she's like just running through the whole thing, looking like an absolute weirdo. And then she rips one open and Michael's standing there with like, I think it's like a scythe or something, or what is he? I think it's a scythe. And he just slashes her in the blood. I'm like, this is so corny. Like, this is so stupid. They just kind of completely gave up with the franchise at this point. I feel like, man, it was brutal. But yeah, Donald Pleasence reprised his role as Dr. Loomis, and it's, it's an older, I think it's his last performance ever, like last movie ever before his passing. Basically, it's revealed that the man behind the cult is a former co-worker who worked at Smith's Grove with Dr. Loomis that we were introduced to for a dick of a second in the original Halloween. It's like, okay, what are we doing right now? It's very bizarre. It's one of the worst character reveals I've ever seen because it was such an obscure cameo that I was like, okay, what are we doing? It was even played by a different actor, I'm pretty sure, so it's like, we have zero way of knowing that you're responsible for this. Weird movie, not the biggest fan. Okay, next is Halloween Kills at number 8. What I will say about Halloween Kills, the good thing is that, like my bro, let me get the piece of gum here. That's what's up. What I will say about Halloween Kills is it's by far the most brutal Halloween ever made. I mean, it's blood galore, it's violent as all hell. Michael is an unstoppable force, more or less. So it seems. He's just, obviously everyone's kind of seen the scene of, the firefighter scene where he's just obliterating firefighters. I mean, man, yeah, it's very graphic, but that's it. There's no actual substance to the plot or the story aside from the graphicness of it. It's cool seeing, old characters reprise their roles and stuff like that for like the third time. And Tommy Doyle was introduced, and it's like the original actor from when he was a kid. We get Marilyn Chambers, the nurse mentioned earlier, who made an appearance again in H2O, was back to reprise her role again in a different timeline. Yeah, it's cool. It really ties in well to the same night as Halloween 2018, so that's pretty good. It's a really clean transition, even, down to the details of having people who appeared in 18 as background characters become kind of focal points of this movie in a sense. And, they're wearing the same outfits and, stuff like that. It's pretty well detailed. It actually makes you think that they filmed the whole entire thing as one giant movie and just sliced it in half, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's the best way I can explain it, but it's very bizarre. I don't think it works. That whole entire Evil Dies Tonight thing, I almost walked out of the movie theater when I watched it. If they said it one more time, I was gonna leave. It wasn't even funny, and I'm not saying it as a joke right now. It's brutally, brutally difficult to watch that movie over again, knowing how many times they say the line "Evil Dies Tonight." I wholeheartedly don't even say it as a joke. I don't find any humor in it anymore. I used to. I don't anymore. It doesn't pay off. It's worthless. It's a slap in the face throughout the whole movie. So, when they mistake the mental patient for Michael, again, very, very, very angry at that. It's not even funny how ridiculous it is to think this. Yeah, I do. I don't know. Not a fan of the movie. I think the story's awful. There's a cool flashback to the original Halloween, where it's like a scene that we never saw that's kind of implied. The scene's whatever. It's just basically like the sheriff, who was a deputy, who was a cop at that time, he had an interaction with Michael, and you know, it's whatever. I don't think it was really needed. But he basically, the way they recreated it was great. It looked exactly like it would fit in 1978. Like, it was very well done. Very impressed by that to this day. But yeah, honestly, I could have lived without this movie. I thought the Big John and Little John characters were pretty good. That was probably like the best characters of the whole movie for me. They're probably the best characters of the freaking whole entire two new movies. Oh, I forgot that kid from 2018, the little kid. I can't think of his name. The little kid that the girl's babysitting. Whatever, he's funny as hell. Good character. But yeah, Big John, Little John thing's pretty cool in this movie. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool little shout out that they made them realtors who moved into the Myers house, because it's kind of like, okay, that's a recurring thing with realtors and Myers house and moving into there or looking over trying to sell it, and you know, they tried to sell it, they couldn't, so they moved in. I think it was a pretty cool nod to the previous movies, but yeah. So Halloween Kills, if you want to watch a bloodbath of a Halloween movie with awful storyline, no character traits that stick out really, and failed empty promises, and even ridiculousness of gang attacking Michael Myers, simply just to have every one of you murdered, then watch Halloween Kills. Not a fan though. Okay, number 9. The only reason that this is on this low is because the only reason that number 9 is this low is because I've only seen it like twice, so I don't have a formulated opinion strong enough either way. That's Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. That's the anthology movie that basically was made once they decided they didn't want to do Michael Myers related stories anymore. So yeah, it's basically the story is just a company was producing masks around Halloween time that would kill children if they put them on. It's basically just, basically the story is just a guy going around trying to figure it out more or less. I don't know much about the movie. I should actually be watching because I've heard, aside from it being part of the Halloween saga, if it was an independent movie, it would be phenomenal. So I'll have to keep an eye out for that. And then I think number 10 was Halloween 5: Revenge of Michael Myers. Okay, horrible movie. But it's funny, horrible. I mean, like, basically it's, Jamie Lloyd doesn't talk the whole movie. She's pretty weird. Weird because because, you know, she's kind of like connected spiritually and mentally with Michael. It's very bizarre the whole time. She's in like a hospital for children. Oh, sorry, my allergies are killing me today. And she's in a hospital, and you know, she's in there for most of the movie for the most part, and it's just Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis visiting her, but he seems like he should be in the hospital more than her because this guy is off his shit in this movie. Like, I don't know what was going on, if he was just done with this franchise or if he was just like a strong alcoholic or whatever, but it was a terrible performance. He was scarier than Michael was. Yeah, I don't have many good things to say about this movie. It's a joke of a movie. I say that because there's a scene where Rachel calls the cops because she thinks someone's in her house, and it actually is Michael, but the cops obviously don't catch him because that's how cops are in movies. But they walk into the house, and when they walk out after searching it, you know, they're like walking like idiots and goofy, and then clown music starts playing. I'm not joking. Please go on YouTube. Please search up Halloween 5 cop clown music. You watch that scene. It's law enforcement walking with clown music being played in the middle of a Halloween movie. That is literally all I'm gonna say. Nothing else needs to be said. I will say one good thing. I do like how Michael ended up surviving from Halloween 4. Basically, he gets, you know, he escapes blowing up in Halloween 4 by crawling through like some like waters and like some like river or something. And he ends up, you know, surviving the explosion. He's really close to death though because he got pumped full of lead real bad. And he gets saved by some hermit. And then basically, you know, he just like stays in a coma for a while, and it's like weird. And he just randomly wakes up and kills the hermit and stuff like that, and it's like, damn, that's what I like to see. Michael Myers being Michael Myers. Doesn't matter how nice you are or what you try to do, he's gonna get you. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that movie. They did Rachel so dirty. Not a fan. Jeez, the last two. Here we go. Number 11, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the last Jedi of this franchise. There's people out there who praise it for a cinematic masterpiece that people believe it is. And there's people who think it's a disrespectful heap of garbage. I'm more inclined to be on the latter. Before I shit on the movie, I will say, I like the ruthlessness of Michael's portrayal in this movie. He's very ruthless. That's all. It's the only thing I like about this whole movie. Let me tell you what I don't like. Michael doesn't wear a mask. He looks like a hitchhiker. He literally is a hitchhiker. He just walks around everywhere with long overhead shots of him walking. He grunts. There's like a symbolism for a white horse in his deceased mother. Because Rob Zombie needed an excuse to get his wife Sherry Moon, or what the fuck her name is inside of the movie. Because his wife's in every single one of his movies, and people like are against it. I don't think she's that bad of an actress, but she's not the best. But yeah, he kind of force feed her in with some white horse symbolic metaphor for something. It's whatever. Dr. Loomis's character is god awful. He basically became a dickhead and made insane in this movie. Just a terrible, terrible interpretation of a character, if you ask me. Makes her really wild and like psychotic, but not like psychotic that you'd expect. It's like she's turning into Michael, like she's really mentally unstable, but obviously trauma exists differently depending on the person. Real life applications, I'd have a much different opinion on her reaction to the event. However, realizing that it's a movie, I think there's a lot better approaches they could have taken with it opposed to what they did. And then, the movie ends with like her in a mental hospital, and it's like, not a fan of that freaking movie. Terrible movie, actually. The only movie actually that's worse is Halloween Resurrection, which is number 12, the dead last on my list. Halloween Resurrection starts off revealing that Halloween H2O, ending when Jamie Lee Curtis cut the head off of Michael. It reveals it wasn't actually Michael. What it says is that Michael crushed the lyrics in the throat of an EMT, stripped the EMT naked, switched clothes with him, and then walked out into the woods in front of everybody. And then, basically, Laurie ended up killing the EMT who Michael had planted as himself, and she ended up in a mental hospital due to it. Completely retcons a great ending to the previous movie that could have been a hell of an ending to the franchise, temporarily at least, because they never really end franchises, but they had ruined it. They ruined even more by making Michael come and find Laurie, which is okay, whatever. But then he kills Laurie in the most anticlimactic, ridiculous way. And then, yeah, the rest of the movie is basically just a video live stream, like real world type of thing, of a bunch of random people going through the Myers house that's been like planted and tampered with by the crew. Who is it? It's a Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes is actually my favorite part of the movie, believe it or not, which is crazy. You never thought that Busta Rhymes would be the best part of a Halloween movie, but so be it. His character's freaking awesome. But yeah, he's basically just like the guy in charge of this thing. What's it like? Fear or something. There's some like corny name for it. I don't know. Not a fan of it though. Danger, or something like that. Danger, whatever. It's like danger or something. Not a fan of the movie. I think it's absolutely disrespectfully bad. Yeah, the only highlights are the cool fact that it's live stream before live stream was like really prevalent, but it's not executed well at all. And that Busta Rhymes is in it. Aside from that, terrible movie. I'm not even going to give any further synopsis on it because I don't think it even deserves it, to be honest. It's a huge cash grab of greed based on the Weinstein Company. I think it was Miramax. Yeah, not a fan. I absolutely do not look forward to watching that movie anytime I've ever watched it, ever since I watched it originally. And, yeah. So, I hate to end it off sad and like on a pessimistic note, but, it's the end of the list. It's not like the top 10 greatest movies. I have something great to say about every movie and praise it all. It's just how the cookie crumbles. Anyways, I'm probably like past an hour, so jeez. If you're still here,